Welcome back to Coast AM. I'm your host, Rich Barra, and Darius J. Wright. With over 8 million views online, he helps people awaken hidden abilities, navigate unseen dimensions, and reclaim their spiritual authority. I've been very excited to talk to our first guest and finally get to meet you. Welcome to Coast AM, Darius. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
We got a lot to talk about, and you have so many corners of what I call the matrix that we seem to be living in right now. What is the nature of our reality right now as you see it? How do we fit in?
Okay, so that's a very broad question. So I'm going to give you a broad answer to it, but maybe simplify too. The nature of this place, of who we are, this place that we're in right now is nothing but a thought of a soul. That's pretty much it. So we are all creation. Everything that we are living in is nothing but our will, every single soul's will, in manifesting something to experience. So you could say, in essence, this place that we're in is nothing but a dream. We're living in a dream. And then we think that sometimes when we fall asleep and we dream, that's a dream, but that's actually the real place that you are from. That's where you have come from before you were born. You see?
So far, yes.
Okay.
So if we are in a bit of a dream, how much control do we have over this dream?
Well, you have a lot more than what people would tell you otherwise. And I'll give you for instance. Right now, majority of people only perceive reality based off their five senses. In these five senses, scientifically, we could only decode a certain portion of the light spectrum, something like 1%, of even less of that. And so we think that this is all there is. So therefore, to manifest here or to do something here only within these five senses, it's sort of impossible. But when you access beyond those five senses, beyond that light spectrum, which is available to everybody anyways, then you access more of the true nature of reality. You access time. Time is not a linear thing. You could go to the past, present, and future. And right now we do that already just through us thinking. The moment we think of something in the past is because we're actually putting ourselves in that past event already. In the future, vice versa. So reality is very malleable, more malleable than what we've been taught to believe. And when you understand the nature of this place, and you could start to identify things, and you could say, start to maneuver this reality almost like play, like pottery, in a sense. Yes.
I guess as you're talking, I'm thinking about all the years that I've listened to Coast AM with, George Norrie and Art Bell before that. And one of the things I think about is we've heard from a lot of sources that, in a sense, you're living in a place that you can mold like clay. But I'm wondering, did the ancients know this? Was there a time when this reality of, you can manipulate things, or you can hop dimensions? Was it well known and we forgot it? Because none of us really learned this in school. I mean, the five senses are what you learn. Why do you think the information of maybe how powerful you are has been suppressed for so long?
Yeah. So the reason why it's suppressed and information like this is suppressed is because once a soul and a collective souls figure this out, then there's no controlling any of us anymore. Right now, they have control systems based off fear, based off monetary systems, all systems designed to put the body in a slavery system. But when people realize that the body is not them, they never die, and they become fearless and are not afraid of death itself, then they become an uncontrollable soul. And when they're an uncontrollable soul in that aspect, then they start to realize, well, wait a second, who am I really? They go back into love and they start doing things in love, and it changes this place forever. Now, to go back to what you were saying before, the technology stuff, is this technology that they had in the past, or did they know the technology that's within us in the past? And yes, back in the ancient times, Egyptian, those pyramids that we obviously was not built by the physical hands of man, but they were built by a intelligent, basically humans in that past to build these things, and they knew who we were. They knew the soul, the power of the soul, and they knew the whole DNA of the soul too. And the craft that they even used and the technology that they used were based off of the basically electromagnetic fields. So a lot of the pyramid structures, you talk about transportation, a lot of the pyramid structures acted as portals, Stargate portals. So you could say the pyramids were just big airports to travel to one place within this earthly realm, and even outside of it as well, because the beings that have been here forever and are still here are just outside that visual light spectrum for us to perceive them, but they're actually here. And like I said before, people that have a hard time understanding this understand that physically the physical body could only see 1% of the light spectrum. What do you think you would see if you were able to expand that vision? You would see things that were always around you the entire time, just not visible to you. So a lot of people say we're going to New Earth. It's not necessarily we're going anywhere. New Earth has always been here. What's happening is the great revealing to everybody that which was always here and always was.
I assume you didn't grow up always knowing this. When did you first start getting the reveal that there's more to, the world around us than we're seeing or feeling? What was your first clue?
Well, I would say I have, in a sense, not necessarily able to articulate it in the way that I am now, but I have. And the same thing with every single person listening to this knows all of this already, because each soul has access to the all-knowing of everything. We all do, because to say otherwise would say that you're not of the everything and not of the all of all creation, and you are of that. So if you are of the everything, you never die, then that means you have access to everything. So it's more of in my life, my upbringing, I was never told to suppress abilities. And because of that, I was able to foster those natural things that we all have up until the point that I am now. Certain things were revealed to me during certain experiences, but explaining them to you back then, I wouldn't be able to really know how to, as like I said, the way that I'm doing it now. Yeah.
I feel like when you come as far as you have down this road, maybe even writing about it, you have to take it back and say, I should probably explain this to people like they're in grade school, because not everybody gets this. Not everybody feels this. It's like I've heard it referred to before as maybe you've taken piano lessons in the past, but now you're playing with mittens. you've got on snow gloves, and that's how you're playing the piano. You just can't feel the keys the way you would if you had the gloves off.
Yeah, no, I get it. That's and that goes into what I usually say. How do you tell a blind person what the color blue looks like? And so a lot of people are temporarily blind. So, you say this is what the color blue is, but they're temporarily blind, but they're not blind forever, because all it takes is a bit of a spark of remembrance again, because purely all I'm doing with everything that I talk about, everything that I teach, is to get someone to first question, where was I? Who was I before I was born here? And it's a simple question to ask. But once you start asking that, who was I? Where was I before I was born here? When you come to the answer of that, you'll realize that was your home.
How do you come to the answer to that? As you ask that question, and I think about it, I have a big blank on my, I don't recall anything before now, mostly really not before kindergarten do I recall a whole lot. So how do you know who you were before you got here?
Well, this is where you could say the most direct path to do it is see it for yourself. Now, out of body states, near-death experiences. Near-death experience, people see it and they remember it, and then they're changed forever because they remember their home again. But a near-death is not something that you need to, like, you don't need to have a near-death experience to experience the other side, your home again. You can have a controlled out-of-body state and you come out and you see it. The thing is, this is not our physical form. People here in the physical flesh think that this is this is real. This is so solid. This is solidity. This is so real to me. That how could there be anything more real and more physical than this? They think that somehow when they cross over or they die, that somehow their soul is less physical than the physical body that they have right now. And that's a massive misconception of just an understanding of what I said before multiple times already, that light spectrum. How could someone say that it is less physical, less real once you leave the body and you die or have a controlled out-of-body state than it is here? If we're only accessing 1% of the light spectrum, but once you leave, you access 100% of it, it is more real, more physical than what you would ever experience here, full stop. Because this body is only a temporary body. Your true form, your true body is the soul. And you could take the soul out of the body and see the physical body as, wow, that's just my body. That's not who I am. And you could take the soul out and you could see yourself again. You could say, this is where they say in biblical sense, you're born again, because in essence you are. You're born one time here and you're born the second time when you leave and you see your true self and you stand.
Is the place that we come
there's
from?
There's no going back. There's no turning back.
Is the place that we come from, our home that we come from, is the same place where we go when this mortal body, gives out? Same place?
Yes.
So I was thinking about what you were saying about, things being more real. But if you only know of the five senses, then nothing can feel more real than the five senses that you only know. So whatever else is out there, however you begin to awaken to that or bring that out. And I think a lot of people, I could feel listeners saying, well, that's making yourself more important than you should be. That's going against what you know for your religion. That's, you're like putting yourself as, you're calling yourself a god, basically, and you shouldn't do that. What do you say to that?
What I say to this or to that, if you hear me speak and all you hear is me speaking as, oh, I'm superior in some sense, or I'm this or I'm that, then you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. Every single soul, everybody is of the highest, the highest. We all are the hand of God. Every single soul is. To say otherwise is also a misconception, a misunderstanding of who you are. You see, many people are still operating underneath the limited consciousness that they have here of just the mind, trying to decode things with the mind. They think, therefore, they were born, therefore, there must be a beginning to their soul. The soul must be born. But even when you search for the very end of things, you're only going to, when you search for that, you're going to find no beginning or no end, because there's no start to you, nor was there no end to you. And there's the paradox, because you are an infinite soul. To find the end also means that there was a creation to you, but there isn't. You just are and always were. And every single soul just is. They hold the same capacity, the same ability as every other soul to manifest, create by their will, their spoken word. It's what's done on the other side. And you people even do it here right now, unconscious of it. People, you say, some people can't understand how physical this is, but they actually can, because many people have dreams and they go, wow, that dream was so real. Well, how could that dream be so real to you? How is it more real than the physical? Just a dream, when you're temporarily 100% conscious in that particular time frame of having that. Because you, as a soul, manifest creation in front of you all the time based off your will. And that is it. We're living, you could say we're living in the thoughts of our will. In a sense. And I know that's a convoluted way to answer this question, but the point is that every single one of us are the Most High, every single one of us. And another way to put that as well, could you imagine a father, or do you have Do you have a kid?
Yeah, I have a couple.
Okay. So could you imagine yourself and everybody else listening to this, put yourself in this situation. So you're a father, you have a son or a daughter, and then you never want that son, you never want it to ever become greater or better than you. And if you did that, and if you said that, then isn't that a bad parent? Isn't the whole point in having a child
It's pretty
to
limiting,
make
yeah.
sure that yeah,
I would
to
say
make sure
so.
that child becomes greater than you based off your experience, and you pass that knowledge on so they could become greater than you. So let's just say, for instance, there was a creation to us, each individual soul. Do you think the father of all creation is going to somehow make us always beneath it? Or is it going to be, you could do more than me? Here, let me catapult you forward. We have in society, through the systems of control, through the systems of enslavement, we have been conditioned to be always underneath something, always giving our power away to something, whether if that's a god, whether if that's a governmental system, what have you. And that is not your true state. Your true state is never underneath anything. It's always in a place of love and freedom. You cannot have ultimate expression of freedom with a limitation. And we, as souls on the other side, are free to do as we wish in love, because there's no judgment either on the other side, because you can't have unconditional love with a judgment. So for a God that is all powerful, but yet and all loving, but says it's going to judge you, you cannot have unconditional love with a judgment. It cannot be. So who do you believe? The controlling systems that have enslaved humanity, or just the simple fact that has been presented to people right here of just that statement? How could you refute that?
Do you feel like there's a club of people who've got it figured out and they're trying to hold the rest of us down?
I think, well, there
That might be a question we have to answer on the other side of this break, not to cut you off. But as we're coming up on the break, I do want to get into that. And I also want to get into, based on what you were talking about, the people who haven't experienced it, maybe we can find out how we can elevate, how we can find our higher selves. I'm interested in learning how to do that. Maybe we could do a little exercise together when we come back with Darius Wright on Coast to Coast AM. Our guest tonight is Darius, and Darius Wright is going to help us break down the illusion of time and expose how media and culture suppresses spiritual truth, which I think is huge, and we're kind of talking about that before the break. And it must be kind of an interesting thing for you, Darius, to be where you are and having to explain the basic concepts over and over again, where you're like, no, the spiritual train is moving, we've left the station, everybody needs to be on board this, we need to get beyond the basics, we need to move on to the next level. How are we doing? Is there an awakening happening in society, or do you still think that the chains are on?
Well, yes, it is. Now, because most people, when they think of awakening, they think of rose petals and rainbows thrown at their feet. But when you awaken and you see the truth, sometimes it's the most painful thing that you will experience, because you see the truth. It's like once you end up getting closer to the source of light, the bigger the shadow becomes. So once you get to the source of the truth of things, when you look back, you're just going to see the shadow. You're going to see all the chaos. You're going to see all things that are not of love. The reason why this place is the way it is, the way people suffer, is because all things are done outside of love. And you see all those things. Every single system right now, I think, besides the post office, are systems based off control, governmental systems. And all these things are being shown, revealed, and they're actually falling right now. The whole system is falling in front of everybody's eyes. But because they're so attached to it, they have nothing else to compare it to. But what is on that is complete freedom. is complete freedom.
Do we want society? Do we want freedom, or do we want to be controlled?
Most people, based off of just how long the control has been going on, they have become accustomed to comfort. So it's comfortable to be a slave for some people. And
like having somebody to answer to is like our neutral. We just feel like that's what you do.
Yeah, that this is just what normal is. And normal now is a sick society. I mean, we are the only beings that have to pay to live where we were born. Right there, that simple statement that has been stated before, it is evident to everybody that we are in a system of slavery. Slavery hasn't changed at all. Before, slavery was you're being fed, you're being clothed, barely, and you have shelter, but now you work. And you're a slave. Now it's changed to, okay, now you work 9 to 5, you go back home, a house that you have to pay for. Now you have to pay for your food. And we think it's freedom. It's the illusion of freedom. This is the greatest illusion of freedom for the physical body that people are under, the spell. And it's all breaking down. This is why the financial system's breaking down. It's one of the main root of their control systems.
Don't you feel like it's been breaking down for a while though, or do you just feel like there's a new heat behind the breakdown because of I don't know what, maybe the internet exposing a lot of things?
Well, that too. Yeah, that too. You go back into the 80s, the 70s. Yeah, things are being exposed then, but then you had control opposition where then as things are being exposed, then you put in plants, and those plants then take away that movement. And then it just dies down. But it's always it's always been in the process, but now it's more than ever because the same systems that they use, the same technology that is now we have in our hands is now exposing all of it. You take a look on just your average 16-year-old or 18-year-old now. They all know what's going on. They all see it.
Yeah.
They see the control system. They see everything. The only ones that are having a harder time, I would say, some, not all, but is the older, like very strong on their beliefs. But it's all falling apart.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Like I said, it's a good thing.
Whenever I bring up, I do have both a 16 and an 18-year-old, and whenever I bring up the conspiracies about that type of stuff, they've already been through that side of TikTok. They've already been exposed to all that. They're already kind of locked down on it. Okay, so when we come back, I do want to talk about the manipulation of the narrative, if you will, and then let's get some tips on how we can expand our power that you say every one of us has, every soul has. Let's explore that a little bit, and then we'll take some calls later on. So we'll do all that. Don't go away. We're coming right back with Darius Wright on Coast to Coast AM. Welcome back to Coast AM. I'm your host, Rich Barra. Our guest, Darius Wright. We're talking about awakening to the other side, and I was kind of asking Darius if he could help us kind of start that. And I was kind of wondering, if you were going to try to have an out-of-body experience, what do you tell people to start with? How do you start to have an out-of-body experience?
Yeah, so first of all, you have to get rid of fear around all things. It's the thing that will prevent this, full stop. But then the second thing, I'll answer that, but the second thing is more of a question to them. Every single night when you go to sleep, where do you think the soul's going? Where do you think you're going?
Oh,
you're going
I haven't thought it, but somewhere. Yeah, you're traveling somewhere.
Yeah, the soul is going somewhere. So, how do you control this? This is why I said there's this temporary, or you could say a short forgetting process of once you leave and forgetting from once you come back. But you could break that cycle. You could break that cycle just with consciousness. Now, how I train people to do this, and a lot of people have been successful on it, is you want to enter sleep paralysis consciously. So once the body gets to a certain state, when you lower the electromagnetic field and the heart rate to a certain state, then your soul is able to freely exit. Now, this is why I say it's no different from a near death, because when you die, what happens to the heart? The heart lowers, the electromagnetic field of the physical body lowers, so therefore the soul leaves. And then when you leave, you're able to view yourself. So we're mimicking the same thing, but in a controlled fashion without death. And you do that by staying 100% calm. You get yourself into like this deep, deep meditation, you could say. And you're consciously trying to lower your heart rate and lower the field to where you consciously slip into sleep paralysis. And then when you're calm in that state, you can exit the body. With certain things being getting rid of fear, etc., etc., you can exit the body. And once you do, you will sit up. It will feel no different than your physical body. You operating in this because your soul is physical, because you're accessing more of the light spectrum of what I said before. So when you sit up or you start floating up, you will look back and you will see the physical body on the bed where you're positioned, no different from a near death. And at that point, then you could start accessing the true state of reality, the nature of reality. People that I've taught this to, I've seen passed away loved ones. I've seen my passed away Uncle Bob. I've accessed, you could say,
it's just as real as this is right here.
It's just as real as this. Even when you ask that question, it's still like, how could it be more real than this? Like, how could it be? Because you're accessing more of the energy and the light spectrum that you are only accessing 1% of right now. So if you leave the body and you access 100% of the known light spectrum, how could it not be more real, more physical than the physical body that you have right now? How could it not be?
So you've traveled. I do understand. Slowly, I'm getting it, but I'm getting it. I went to community college. You gotta slow down with me a little bit. But I know you've traveled through 2 other worlds yourself. Have you seen colors that aren't here? Have you felt feelings on your skin that aren't here?
Yes. So these are even. I still can't identify the colors now or the sounds.
Sure, because what would you call them? Because we don't know what they are.
There you go. It's how do you tell a blind person what the color blue looks like? Right now, I have the color. I know what it looks like, but there's no name to it. There's not a name here because you're accessing so much more. I remember once I'm out and I'm touching another soul or an angel, because we have a total of 12 creations within this. You could say this universe that we're in, this universe being a construct. We have a total of 12 creations, 12 heavens. And I remember seeing some of those 12 creations. And the part of the 7th creation is the heaven of the angels. And as I'm there, I'm touching them as if I'm physically touching a human being. And when you touch these beings, when you're communicating with them, it's like the conversation we're having right now. I've been shown things, I've accessed things that were impossible for me to know unless I was physically there. There are certain things in biblically that I've seen that I haven't even read, and I'm like, wow, I was shown that, and that's now being validated to me. I've trained groups of people to leave their body to target, to see verifiable proof of what they're experiencing is true. I would have them and their friends write something on a whiteboard on a piece of paper halfway across the world. They would target that individual and see what they wrote on the paper. Because once you leave the body, you have access to beyond just the physical limitations of the physical body. This is why the CIA has pumped millions and millions of dollars into, you could say, a subpar training to teach people remote viewing. If the CIA program or government agencies are pumping millions of dollars to train people to do this, it's an ability that we all have. It's an ability that I have trained myself to do, and other people. We all have this. That's the thing. And that's what I was telling you before. Once people realize that they are beyond the physical body and they see it, physically see it for themselves, when they're physically here, they become uncontrollable. because I no longer fear death. All the people that have experienced this no longer fear death. They are uncontrollable. You cannot sit there and say this to them, because what can you possibly take from them?
Well, I guess you wouldn't be afraid of dying if nothing really ends. You're just moving on to the next neighborhood and checking out a different scene, right?
Yes.
So, okay. So, all right. I'm going to ask you a couple of parted questions here, because I know I have so many. Your answers give me 55 more questions. So, if we were in a bit of a simulation, seems like we are, and it seems like it's ending, and you don't believe that the future is really the future, you've been to the future, is the simulation ending? Are we going to wake up to be like, oh yeah, we had it all messed up? Are we headed that way, or are we still got the training wheels on?
Okay, so first is I'll try to answer this short, because I know we may be short on time. But first, it's not necessarily a simulation in the way that you think a simulation is. All of creation, everything in creation is made by the will of the soul, a thought form. So when you think of something, that thought form is a prism of light. You automatically, when you think of something, you manifest a prism of light. You confine it. A thought form is a confinement space. You are even outside of all confinements itself. You are the one that makes those things. So everything that is all throughout creation, you could say, is a simulation, is a prism of light, a confinement space based off your will and your thought form manifesting those places. Does that make sense?
It does. And I think the short version that I'm taking in my head is, thoughts become things. Your thoughts really become things. So be careful. Think good things.
They actually do. And I'll bypass that. I'll try to answer that as well, with the whole cell stuff. But the thing is, when out of the body, you'll find even the civilizations of the Mayans were able to predict time. How are they able to do that? Because they were accessing more of the light spectrum. They are able to see potential futures. Now, there are potential futures that are just potentials. They're not set in stone. But some of the things are actually written in stone, and you cannot change them. I've experienced this. I've seen this. I've tried to change certain things for myself personally. I've seen certain things that I was shown that happened that was impossible to change, because things on the other side in this creation, some of them are pre-written. For instance, everybody will wake up to the other side. That's already pre-written in stone. There's nothing that you could do or anybody else could do to prevent that from happening, because you're either going to have a controlled out-of-body state, or you're going to die and you're going to access the other side. It's pre-written. The pre-written cycle within this creation is that everything is revealed to everybody. The revealing of all things is revealed to every single soul. That is pre-written. It's set in stone. It's set. I don't know the time, but I know that is set. And that is what I've seen. And some of the things as well, to give you a sort of a you could say a paradox on time, but not necessarily a paradox. But if some of the things that I've seen that were already pre-written and you cannot change them, and they were apparently the future, wouldn't you say if you target a future event and you see it, you can't change it, and it happens no matter what you do, wouldn't you say that you're traveling through the past, not
Probably,
the future?
Yes. Yep.
Most of these things, you hear this in every near-death experience story. I've seen it for myself. People that I've taught this to have seen it for themselves. Some things on the other side are preset even for yourself. Not everything, but some things are. So this whole creation was preset. And we are traveling through the past to that which has already happened. And this is why the minds were able to predict what will happen regardless. Because they were seeing the preset markers in creation of this particular creation that happens. And everything is revealed. The revealing of what was always here happens. And it's happening now.
Is it possible when you go to the next place, your thoughts and your soul go with you? Do your thoughts just die when you die and the soul moves on, or do the thoughts continue to go on?
No, no, no. So this is also a misconception for some people too. So people think that they lose their personality. They lose themselves, who they are. Think about this. I'm using near-death experiences a lot here because it gives people an anchor, something that they could hear other than just myself. When they die, they come out of their body and they think the same way. They're like, oh, wait a second, I'm on the operating table. I'm dead. Same thing when you leave the body consciously. Your personality, your thoughts, everything that you are right now goes with you. It doesn't change. The only thing that changes is, you could say, more of your memory, more of your spirits come within you again, your memories, where you start remembering everything that you've ever done that accumulated to who you are right here, right now, and forgetfulness of everything that you've ever done and experienced. There's no losing yourself. There's no losing your personality, who you are. That is you. It's impossible to lose it. You never merge and lose yourself. You are always yourself.
So if
the
I
greatest
go,
version,
if I travel to another dimension and I come back, all of me is going to come back. Not part of that's going to get left behind.
No, not at all. Not at all.
I mean, because that would be something
Yes.
I would be afraid of. So, man, we're going up against the break. I wanted to tell you about a time that I tried to do this. It was when I was living alone in an apartment, and I tried to follow a let's go down to whatever dimension I'm going to go through. And I sat on my couch, closed my eyes, and I could feel myself going down a tunnel. I could feel the light. I could feel all of it. And I remember kind of waking up and thinking, it's a good thing I got back here, because I certainly didn't know where I was going. It felt like it was too fast. It felt like it was moving too quickly. And when I woke up, I felt out of sorts for a few hours to try to come back to wherever it is that I was. How do you train yourself to like stay in your soul to come back in a one complete piece? I guess we're gonna have to get to that after the break. You're gonna hang out with us a little bit, and we're going to take some calls. Darius Wright is our guest. He's dropping some mad philosophy on us tonight on Coast to Coast AM, and we're going to dig into it more with your questions when we come back. Let's find out how to anchor ourselves into our soul if we go dimension hopping when we come back on Coast to Coast AM. Our guest tonight, Darius Wright, his website, dariuswright.com, linked up at Coast to Coast AM. We're talking philosophy this evening in a very deep way, and you have lots of questions for Darius. Darius, before the break, I was kind of talking about my own little journey into trying to hop dimensions and being like, well, I'm too far from home. I need to get back. I guess that's the fear that you're talking about. Like, are you saying to just let it go? You're going to come back?
All fear. Every single thing that you fear, you do not fear a thing. It will stop everything. The moment you get rid of fear, you access everything that you're seeking. Think about it. Fear is the opposite of love. Did you know that?
Well, sure. Yes, of course.
Because fear is essentially... Do you let's go back to what we were talking about before with a God, singular being. Let's pretend singular being God, all loving in the divinity of everything, all love. Do you think that being for 1 second experiences 1 ounce of fear within it?
No.
That's what you are. Every single soul is the hand of that. In fear, when you experience fear, or you have fear within you, you are actually becoming the opposite of what you are. You are becoming the very evil that you fight against, because they operate things out of fear. Their whole premise is fear based off control. They control things because they fear something. So fear is the opposite of you. And when you get rid of fear, you access the true divinity of yourself, which is love at the highest state.
It's pretty amazing what you're saying here. Let's take a few calls. Let's talk to Mayed on the wild card line in New York. Welcome to Coast AM. You're on with Darius Wright.
Good morning. You're doing some excellent work, Rich. I have a two-part question, Darius, with some comment related to, and I like to listen on the radio as you respond. On TCM tonight is a movie, and I have it on mute when you guys are on, but during the break I do watch. And it seems that there's been a nuclear, it was from 1959, and there's been a nuclear war. If you could imagine, 3 people, Harry Belafonte, Mel Ferrer, and Inga Stevens, left in New York City, okay? And what the deal is, it's called The World, the Flesh, and the Devil. Is the first question is, does the fact that people are disconnected from reality in terms of true reality, you know, outside the senses and other things that we think are real, does that account? And I think you were right on point, and you really, you just have making immense sense, Darius. Does that account for wickedness? And the second part of the question, why are we born in a world where we don't see the true nature of reality? So I recently read a 18-page book by an Indian mystic in 1902 writing down answers to questions. And it's called Who Am I? And he talks about the senses and the other aspects of what most people consider their lives or how they live their lives. And why is it so hard to get to out of the third dimension? And if you also clarify your classes, your books, and what you recommend, I'll listen over the air. Thank you, Rich.
Well, you're welcome. That's a lot to unpack, Darius. She's all yours.
Yes. Okay. So I'll try to unpack those based off, because you said a lot, but the first one was disconnection and evil. So the thing is, when right now you were talking about the devil too, Satan, devil. So all these beings, Satan, devil, evil, is all acts done outside of love. All acts done outside of love. Fear. If you experience fear, then you will start doing things in control of, a possession of, losing something, because people misunderstand what they are. Love. When you're in the highest state of love, you do not experience loss. You do not experience pain. You do not experience fear. You don't experience any of those things in true love. So then anything that you experience that is the opposite of love is actually what you just said, evil, Satan itself. Right now, people have demons all around them, unaware of it, because they're just individuals that have temporarily fallen out of love, and they're acting in a way of control, which is the opposite of love, which is evil. And it's not that they cannot be picked up from the darkest parts of their life, because if love cannot pick somebody up from the most darkest pits of reality, then love is not the ultimate force in all creation. Evil is, but love is. So even when you see the most evilest things, you reach out your hand and you help it, because that's what love would do. Otherwise, it's not love at all. The second thing that you were talking about was why be born into this place and forgetting? Well, you could also say, and I'll keep this very short, to truly understand unconditional love, to love everything and everyone unconditionally, you would have had to have experienced some aspect of the unlovable things. The contrast of seeing what we are not gives us the greatest power to become something that we born into something greater than where we came from. Once you see that. The third thing is the third dimension. The thing is, escaping the third dimension, you don't need to, we are not third dimensional beings. Right now within you, you already have access to all of the dimensions within you. Scientifically, they measured 13 or 12 or 13 dimensional structures within your brain.
Whoa.
We also have 12 to 13 DNA within us, but they call this junk DNA. So already we have access to all of the dimensions, all of the kingdoms, all of the heavens within us.
It's like
all
an untapped firmware upgrade just waiting to be turned on, sounds like.
Well, we have that as well too, even with the cells. The thing is, if people understood the will of their soul, how powerful they are, the words, if you were to spend time with your thoughts in the words that you speak, you would realize that the very words that come out of your mouth actually are programming the very waters and cells within you. Scientifically proven that when you speak to water, it takes on the form of that which you spoke to it. And you are the waters within you, the cells. It's no different. Your spoken word has the ultimate authority even over the very cells of your physical body.
I believe that. I've even heard people say science proves that people that say, yeah, I don't ever get sick, I never get colds, they don't, because they have taken over the physical part of their cells. It just doesn't get sick. I think that's pretty cool.